Can I be real with y'all for a second? I absolutely love being a black woman. I mean, who would not love being a black woman in this day and age? Even still, it gets hard sometimes, especially when we're talking about black women in relationships. Oftentimes we are tagged as angry, aggressive, bitter, barren, and that's why we ain't got no man. And according to some of the statistics, there's some truth in that. Pew Social Trends states that in 2014, some 35% of black adults ages 25 and older were married, compared with 60% of whites. That's almost half. And while we know that people are getting married later in life, there's still some truth to these statistics, and we're seeing it every day. Please meet my girl Jenelle. Jenelle is a black woman who's strong. She knows who she is. She's been married before and divorced, and she has 2 beautiful children. I sat down with Jenelle because I wanted to talk to her about what it means in this day and age to be a single parent, to have been married young, to have raised children young, and how she's navigating the dating scene. I created the concept for The Struggle Is for this docuseries because I just felt like the struggle was getting such a bad rap. I mean, struggles, they're not good, right? It's terrible to go through, it's hard, it sucks. But at the end of the day, people can attribute their struggles for their growth and for their success. And I feel like if I had a docuseries that really highlighted and showcased people who endure everyday struggles like you and I, but how they've embraced the struggle, how they've worked through the struggle, and how sometimes that struggle is lifelong, but they still make it through. I feel like we can really think more about the struggle in the context of what it gives us versus what it takes away. So I introduce to you all The Struggle Is.
Possibly feel. Well, first of all, how old are you?
I am 38 years old.
Okay, so let's back up. What age were you married?
I was 20 when I got married.
20. So what, did you feel pressure to get married?
Yes.
Okay. From who?
My mother. Grew up in a very religious household. And it's so funny because my ex-husband is 5 years older than me. So I was a freshman, was a 5th-year senior when we met. There was something my mother said to me that I will never forget. She was like, I really would like to call my family and be happy about this pregnancy. But y'all aren't married. Also, like, my belief, like, I didn't want to shack up.
Gotcha.
So at the time, he just wanted to be with me. The whole, like, every day, to be able to be present if something went wrong, because I ended up having to go to the emergency room soon after I found out I was pregnant. And it was after that we had the conversation. And if I would have been willing to just shack up and live in sin, we probably wouldn't have got married.
So how long were you married?
6 years.
6 years. Okay. So you've been married, have kids. What advice do you give to your, you use the word, not me, desperate friends?
Well, no.
I don't in the sense of, I know that they're not here, like anybody, somebody, but like when you see certain things that maybe that you saw in yourself or things, you've been there. One, do you even offer advice? And 2, if you do, what is that?
Like, I try to offer that advice on evaluating your partner.
Okay.
Not necessarily what to do or anything like that. I mean, I have some male friends who are unmarried and who are, one of my good friends, he's 41 and he wants kids. And
do you see the same, and I'm, okay, we'll get back to Atlanta. Okay. And it's interesting because as you get older, you know, you get into this peak of, especially 20, you're young, you're trying to figure out life, then you get into this whole spell of everyone gets married. And you kind of get a few lists and people start getting divorced. Then you get into that whole spell of people getting married again. And having kids are somewhere sprinkled in there. So it's just interesting how the wave of life, I guess, happens. And I guess how you got to ride the wave.
Right.
So we know that you don't feel behind the curve because you were actually ahead of the curve.
Right.
Okay, let's say, you know what will you tell your daughter? Because how old is your daughter?
She's 17.
17, so 3 years away from how old you were.
I know.
What do you talk to her about?
Lord Jesus, oh my goodness. We have conversations about dating. She's the total opposite of me. She don't want to be bothered. These boys, they chase behind her, and that annoys her. And then be observant. So don't get caught up on appearances, or don't get caught up on what they're saying. So do their actions align with their words? And is it what you really want?
Yeah.
So those are the conversations I have with her, and also just definitely like respecting the other person's wishes, or respecting their truth. If they speak their truth to you and it don't jive, then you have two options. Y'all can have a conversation and try to come to an agreement, or you're not suited for each other and you part ways.
Which is okay.
It is so okay.
People hate conversations. I actually welcome conflict. Not welcome it in a like, let's get down, but it's an opportunity to grow for both people if you allow yourself.
Right.
And you have to create a safe space, I think, for honesty. And sometimes we don't. I know I have not always created a space for people to actually be honest, if that makes sense.
It does. Have you heard the book Manology? So it's Reverend Run and
Tyrese.
Yes.
Okay.
So I read the book a long time ago, and one thing, I mean, there are a lot of things in it that were just confirmation of stuff that I already knew. But one thing that was so profound to me was that women teach their men to lie to them. And we teach them to lie to us by our reactions to the truth. So it's funny because sometimes I still struggle with it, but I find myself being super calm. Like the more upsetting the truth is I receive, the more calm my reaction is. Now inside I might be burning up, but number one, I never want to program you to that. It's easier to lie to me because I just want authentic, engagement. But then number two, I want to get to the root of it. Okay, so help me understand, and I try to create the dialogue for it. So I'm trying to tell my daughter, like, teach her those same things, but we're just very different people. Yeah.
Okay, so what role do you believe you played, I don't know if you're in a relationship or not, what role do you think you played in your singleness, if that makes sense?
So I've been separated from my ex-husband for 12 years. Yeah. I actually have been truly not in a committed relationship up until about a month and a half ago for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Prior to my last relationship that ended summer 2013, I'd be out dating, but
so how was it being 100% faithful?
It was harder to leave. Because I was never the type of person that was a cheater in the relationship. It was when I didn't have the backbone to leave, when I knew I needed to leave, I didn't have the backbone to leave, I'd set the next thing up. And I never really appreciated what my friends who enjoyed singleness were telling me about how much you learn about yourself in that space. And I'm like, I learn about myself. I don't need this. I'm a relationship person. I'm a serial monogamist. That's what I do. But when my father passed away, it was a very hard time in that relationship. And I just, no, with the person guy I was with at the time. The relationship had extended far beyond its usefulness, but I allowed it to because I had exposed him to my children, and I didn't want to be hopping around from man to man with my children. So I just started evaluating the men in my life because now my rock is gone. Now my consistent man is gone. So I need to make sure, number one, he's not here to approve of these people. So I need to look at them with his eyes. Would they be good enough for his baby girl? And number two, I also had to recognize that whatever man I chose to have in that space is now going to be my only rock. And that's that's a lot more difficult of a role to fill.
Yeah.
And so this guy I'm with now, we hung out for about a year before we decided to say
be exclusive. Gotcha. Look, I tell people all the time, singleness is it's what you make it, right? So, and then I count, okay, you have marriage, which is the whole union, and then you have dating, and then you have relationships. And I think there's something to learn in all of them. And I think sometimes this rush, just as you get older and you feel like uterus is all these other things, you just feel it's the rush, like I gotta hurry to get here. And I know personally of quite a few people who are married but aren't happy.
Yes.
People won't tell you, okay, well, one, people aren't obligated to tell you their truth.
Right, that's true.
However, I think to the people that you love and care about, I think there's a responsibility to give back something. Because I remember even a girl that interviewed with the organization that we're in, she's 20 something, and she was like, yeah, I went to my friend's wedding, and I'm just like, man, I'm 25. I said, girl, you better, what do you mean? You better, please enjoy this time.
Right.
Like, because you ain't going to get it back.
And and it flies.
When I look and I'm like, I'm 35, like, what is that? I don't know what I thought 35 was. I'm sure at a time I was like, that's really old. And it's not at all, but things happen at 35. As far as, especially when you think of high-risk pregnancy.
Yes.
So you have that whole scare of, let me hurry have a baby, because now I got to go to these doctor's appointments, or now my clock is ticking, and blah, blah, blah.
But to interject, how many of the others don't have their children until 35, 40, and they're okay?
Define the others.
Other races.
Yes. No, that is absolutely true. I think that information is, so two things, and me even being candid, even though I'm in a relationship, I wanted to know, I ain't ready to have no child tomorrow, but I wanted to know my options. So I went to a fertility clinic, and I got them to test my eggs, just to make sure, well, okay, yes, test eggs to see healthiness of them, how many I'm looking at.
Right.
So I can have something to at least track.
Right.
And luckily, thank you, Jesus, everything's fine. But I don't think a lot of us go to do that, right? We usually wait till something happened to go. And I think, and your OBGYN can give this test to you, this blood test. I can't remember the name of it.
Haha, I remembered. So according to IVF.com, AMH, also known as the anti-Mullerian hormone, is a hormone secreted by cells in developing egg sacs. So the level of AMH in a woman's blood is generally a good indicator of her ovarian reserve. So this is a test that you can take anytime, regardless of if you're on your menstrual cycle or not. And it really will help you determine the reserve of your eggs. You can compare it to other females in the same age range, or you also can compare it to yourself if this is a test that you take throughout the years.
That pretty much, it's a blood test, but they can test for, like I said, the healthiness, how many eggs you have, so you can be like, okay, I'm 28, I'm 30, I'm 32, I'm 34, 36, whatever, instead of waiting until I'm 42 and now like I want to have kids, and now at 40 something your eggs are a little different. So I just think that the lack of information that we have, one, because we're scared, two, because of religion, and not because of spirituality, but religion, meaning, like I had this conversation with someone and she was like, well, you know, when God's time, and I'm like, look, I believe in the Lord as well, but he gave us options, and he gave us doctors, he gave us information, so like figure it out before you just lay it on God, and then God forbid you can't have kids, and then that's his will too. Maybe his will was for you to have them, but maybe for you to get a little more information.
Right.
And freezing, like there's just so many, and a man actually told me about freezing my eggs, oddly enough, out of everybody. He was just like, look, you want to know your options.
So I just had a conversation with a girlfriend this weekend as we went to her ex's house to get her stuff.
I've been on that run. Hey.
About freezing her eggs.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old is she?
She is 36.
Okay. And I think there's multiple steps, because I think when I got there, I was just like, so do I need to come out of my pocket, or how does this work? And it really is test your egg health first. Like freezing the eggs is like the last viable option. I think that anyone should choose. But when we hear that and we hear 25,000, you know, it's all the fear, and it's like, but you might not even have to if you get what I'm saying?
Right.
And certain companies pay for it. Like these things that mine ain't one of them, but information. So I hope you tell her to go to the OB. I'm gonna give you the name.
Yes,
and tell her-
definitely.
but my OB never told me this. So this is another thing. Like, I'm like, yo, I've been going to you for 10 years and you never told me about this one
There's
test.
so many things that they don't tell us.
Woman, like, so it frustrated me because she was like, well, you can actually get this. I can. Why am I coming to you, paying you $50 copay? I'm happy I'm here, but so yeah, I think fear, and I hope that you tell the girl, because her ex might be very perky, and a year from now she could be in a whole different situation.
Right.
But the whole thought of where am I going to get this money from, and what if I have to use it, and would I rather be a single mother than, like, and this is something to think about. Would you want to have kids to the point where you'd rather be a single parent,
Right.
versus waiting?
Right.
And I don't know if there's a right or wrong.
I mean, you could still end up a single parent.
I know.
Because if you guys could agree, you'd still be together. And I'm going to be honest. So I started really early, which means that
You'll be done.
I struggled though.
Yeah.
I struggled financially. I struggled with like opportunities to do things. So all of my friends that I went to college with that have these, 5-year-olds and 1-year-olds and stuff right now, they did all of this at a younger age. So now even my being a part of the organization that we're a part of came from this rebirth that didn't happen until 36, 37. So I went through the whole, even in that 5-year period of being single, I went through I'm just going to go to church. I'm just going to, stay in the church. I'm going to find me a good man, blah, blah. Then I went through a period of depression and then I went through a period of bad decisions. I was like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm taking these lessons. I'm thinking about how they can apply in my life. And, excuse my language, but these hoes still winning. And I'm this nice, wholesome girl, and I'm not. And so I went through a period of bad decisions. And then I don't know, I looked in the mirror. It was affecting my health, affecting my appearance. And I just kind of woke up and I said, I don't want to keep doing this. Like, I blinked and I was 35 and now I'm on the other side of 35 and I don't want to still be in this space when my children are gone. Yeah. And so that's when I started looking at investing in myself and investing in my kids.
Even as someone who dubs themselves a forgiveness facilitator, it's a job. Like, if you come to me thinking, just do something in there, it's going to be, nah. It depends on the day. Some days I have very good days for forgiveness. Right. And some other days, they're not so well. I just try to make a promise to myself to do better tomorrow. Like, I failed. There are days I'm like, I failed at this today, which is okay. Right. God willing, I have a new day to get it right. I think even in relationships, that's why I despise relationship goals. Because typically they're based on appearances. Yes. They're not based on actual factuals. Because, one, you really don't know people's relationship. Nor should you. Right. Because don't you have some friends that you know what's really going on, but their Facebook story, their Instagram story? You lying. I'm like, you lying. You just called me and asked me about how I got my divorce, but then this picture is, the love of my life. Yeah. So, I mean. When I get like 55, 60, that good black woman age, when you just stop caring what you say, and I can be like, lying, no. And I don't know you lying because I want to make you feel bad, but like, tell the truth. It's okay for your stuff to stink at this moment. Absolutely. And I put that out there because I'm not a one for putting out like, there are certain things that need to be in the house. But you don't need to be acting as if everything is honky-dory. No, because it ain't. And it's okay. But I just, it's so funny because I really, and regardless of what happens with me and this guy that I'm with right now, one thing that we have helped each other see is, like, number one, not giving energy to that stuff. Like, negative stuff still happens. I mean, I've had like horrible days, like horrible. Woke up thinking it was going to be sunshine and rain. And roses, and my daughter did something, my son did something, my finances did something, people at work did something, and I'm just too through, but I really try my best not to give energy to that. But I think it helps with like all relationships, and it helps with your word meaning something.
right? So if I can lay in this nasty bed that I made and just stand up and say, yes, I did. I made like this bed.
It is what today is.
I did it. I made it. I'm not making excuses. I'm not putting it on you. No. This was me. Mm-hmm. I took it the wrong way. Like, I processed it incorrectly, and where I was mentally, I just couldn't do it. I think that gives the space for people to believe you when you have something bad to tell them, or when they think something and you say, no, you've got it wrong.
Right.
They really actually take you at your word. And I think that's an issue. The meeting I just had was all about somebody who doesn't give people the benefit of the doubt or assume goodwill. Mm. And I think so many issues in relationships, whether it's work, friendship, whatever, is you don't assume goodwill, so then you start to look for things, and then you're vindictive, and then you're resentful, but if you could just be open and authentic. One thing with Black women, the hype that we believe that makes it very challenging for us to have healthy relationships is the independent Black woman.
I was just gonna touch on that.
And so I'm very independent. I'm very self-sufficient. I have had guy friends, so I went to Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. So I've had friends from Tech that came to my house to use my power tools because they did not have the compound miter saw that I have, with the oscillating arm.
And new.
Right. So I could do all of that. Mm-hmm. But are you allowing, when a man comes into your space, are you allowing that man to be a man? Are you allowing him the space to feel like he's bringing something to the table of value? Or do you just feel like, I don't need you? Guess what, baby? I really don't need you, but I want you. You know, and so.
You don't want to be doing all this stuff with the saw.
Well, no.
Meaning, okay, my mother can build a fence.
Right.
She can paint. She can do a little bit of electricity. So, but she learned these things once my father left.
Okay.
So it wasn't something, my mother still at 55 cuts her grass every week. Mm-hmm. She has the best looking grass in the neighborhood.
I used to do that.
And she weed whacks. And now, does she want to do it? I mean, it's exercise.
Right.
But if she had a man to do it, would she be doing it? No. But people do what they gotta do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but because I was in this space too, it also is like, who are you bringing to the table? So
this is important. Okay.
No. So, and that's why I said that relationship long outlived its usefulness, because it should have ended a good 6 months prior to, because some things happened. That's a whole nother issue. But so I got into this kind of space, but like I allowed him in a certain role that he didn't deserve.
Did he not feel it because he didn't have, because I think there's two things, right? Men want a man who can fix anything, you know.
Or do you have the resources? Do you have the resources?
But if I come to him, or if I say, look, babe, my socket is out, and you're like, well, I don't know. Am I gonna shame you for not knowing how to fix it? Or can I be like, look, there's something we need to do together? Or can I tell you this is important to me? Can you figure it out? Like, these are the conversations we should have. But I feel like we meet people and we ask them something, and say you meet a man and you're just like, I don't cook. Not saying that you don't, and you're like, well, she don't cook. Hey, do you like me enough to send me to a class, to take me to a class? Like, because I dated an African man years ago, and he wanted me to know how to cook some African cuisine. But I'm not directly from Hampton, Virginia, and we eat the cube steak and whatever. So I got on, the little internet, and I found a fish stew recipe. But he wanted it to be innate, and it wasn't. And I said, from this point forward, you should not date another American woman. Because she's not going to innately know how to do that. No, and if you want me to know, teach me. And have the patience to learn. Like I have some friends, and I feel like I'm the therapist of the group. And like, I have a lot of guy friends, and I have a guy friend, I'm like, he's half engaged, half not, trying to figure out
if it's gonna make it work. I'm like, but the thing that she doesn't know how to do, are you giving her the time to figure it out? Are you giving her the time for this to become second nature, or are you acting like, I said it needs to be instantaneous? You know, another thing as you were talking that came up in my mind that I find is that I do allow space for a man to be a man. I do. But sometimes in just giving the story of my day and just talking about what I've done, what I've got to do, an insecure man is going to take that as an affront to his manhood. But I'm not bragging. I'm not saying you can't do it. I don't even know that this is something you feel insecure about. And I think so. I think in a lot of ways when we date and you find like it's so many jacked up things that I just don't think we even are aware of or conscious. And so I think therapy is such a strong thing and such a necessary thing for everyone.
Yes. So but I also think we have to listen.
But you know what? I think that's, okay, so number one, I've gotten away from trying to convince all of men and all of women about something that is true of just me. So that's number one. Number two, I think like whatever dynamic you need for your friends, for y'all to communicate as friends and find a way, you need to figure that out. When it comes to a relationship, it's the same. So you've got to figure out what works for you. I am a talker, and I am like, if it is something that is in my spirit and is burning inside and I can't concentrate on anything else, if I don't get it out, I got to get it out. I have some people, some guys I've been with who we can have a long conversation. This guy has a little bit of ADD. So if I don't get to the bottom line,
I think that's just men. We like
within, not all of them.
I think men listen, okay. And this might be it is a generalization when I'm frustrated. Because sometimes I'm like, just let me finish.
But I will say this. He does the same thing.
Oh yeah, but
he doesn't receive it.
But we have patience to receive it. I've been here. Like when I say something twice, he'll be like, "I already heard the story." But there are stories that I've heard
a million times.
I'm just like, "You want to tell me again?" And at the end, I might be like, "Oh yeah, I remember you told me that." But I still allow you this, and I think women are used to being cut off.
Yep.
Just in general.
The wedding isn't the finish line.
Jenelle and I had entirely too much fun recording this episode of The Struggle Is. We talked about everything and anything, and I'm so thankful for conversations like this, especially with my peers. I think we do ourselves a disservice, especially as Black women, when we don't share the experiences that we've had, the lessons that we learned throughout the years. Not only for those who are younger than us, but also for those who are our peers, because sometimes walking around with this superwoman cape, we feel that everyone just has it together and that we don't really have a lot of issues. So I love the vulnerability, I love the candidness, and I'm just so thankful for Jenelle and her stories. So I hope that you all enjoyed this episode. I had one last question for Jenelle.
And if you're not willing to spend the rest of your life alone and you think there's something better out there, baby, let me tell you, haven't been out there for 12 years, that may not be the case. So make it work with the person that you put in the work.
Right.
Just put in the work. No problem. Thank you.